Hi everybody and welcome back to another Legends of Runeterra video. So we just got the newest cards revealed to us. It's going to be Shadow Isles and I did not expect this. So we're going to be getting Nocturne tomorrow. More than likely, unless they've changed their plans, Nocturne is going to be the newest champion to Legends of Runeterra from the Shadow Isles. And yeah, I didn't expect that. I didn't think they were going to release Nocturne this patch, mostly because the variability and the different type of plays that the Shadow Isles offers is already probably the best in the game. There's just a lot of different ways to play Shadow Isles. A lot of people consider it one of the best regions and best designed regions in the game, and I probably agree with them. There's just a lot of ways to play it, a lot of variability, and I'm kind of surprised that they're releasing this before something like Demacia. So now we've got 3 non-Targon champions being released. More than likely, that's all we're going to receive. I'm guessing that we'll have 4 Targon champions by the end of this, and we're going to now have 3 of the already existing region champions. So yeah, kind of interesting. I don't really know now who the other champions are. I thought we were going to get Aurelian Soul, but it kind of seems like he and Shyvana would work together as dragons, so we might not be getting either of those this expansion. And yeah, those were probably the ones I was excited for, so I'm a little bummed out by that, but Nocturne seems like it could be pretty cool, so let's start out here. So they released a new keyword. It's called Nightfall. You get a bonus if this is not the first card you play in a round. So when I first saw this, I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting, because the first thing that you think of when you think of, first card you play, it's a unit onto the field. But this also should work with spells, and so this is kind of a nice combo piece for some sort of spell synergy. So for example, Key Guardian doesn't get a lot of use in decks with like Ionia. Generally not seen as a very powerful card, but if you play Key Guardian and then you play one of these Nightfall units, you can get a bonus from the Nightfall, which is pretty interesting. So yeah, could see some potential synergy with these combo cards and spells that you play beforehand, like Key Guardian. Just one way to look at it. So yeah, not as weak as I originally kind of was inclined to think. It's a little bit stronger than that, and depending on what cards they release with this, it could be super strong. Alright, but we'll get into that a little bit later. We've got 5 cards here to look at. So the first card is the Stygian Onlooker. So, Nightfall ability gives me +2/+0 and Fearsome this round. So this is a temporary buff. He gets Fearsome. He's a 1-cost unit, so unless they release some more 0-cost spells, you're not really going to get value out of this on round 1. And so I guess a potential problem with this is that the earliest that you can play this is round 2 under normal circumstances. And at round 2, of course, they could have a unit down that has 3 attack and are able to block this fearsome unit. So I don't really know how good this is going to be, and yeah, it just kind of depends on what other cards they release with it. Right now, the first look at this, it seems like it could deal a ton of damage, but once again, you gotta wait till after round 1 to play this. Unless they release those 0-cost cards, burst speed 0 mana spells, or I mean Caustic Cask, I guess you could play. I'm pretty sure that's a 0 mana card. But yeah, just I don't know about this one. It could go either way. We'll see what the other cards, if there is more synergy with these cards. If you can get it down, it is pretty powerful. 4 damage round 2 is quite a bit of damage, but you're investing a lot to play another card before this one. So anyway, this could work in an aggro deck. Possible, I guess Noxus or Piltover Zon combo with this Shadow Isles could turn into some sort of aggro deck, a new type of aggro. So yeah, we'll just see what they do. Okay, this next card, Doom Beast. Nightfall ability drain 2 from the enemy nexus. So at first glance, this looks kind of like a weaker Dead Bloom Wanderer, or even the Tasty Faithful. They are also 3 and they have lifesteal. This is a little bit different ability because it is drain 2 from the enemy nexus, and there's a condition that you have to meet. You have to have Nightfall, so you've had to have played another unit before it in order to get this ability off. So I guess the problem with this is that they're adding this Doom Beast to Shadow Isles, but they already have the Dead Bloom Wanderer, which already kind of synergizes well in non-mill decks as it is. It doesn't really cost that much to put it out and to get lifesteal out. The difference between this card and Dead Bloom Wanderer, the pretty much only difference is that you drain, and so there is a swing of 4 health automatically from their Nexus, while as when you play lifesteal units, they actually have to make contact with the Nexus for that kind of 6 swing health advantage to happen. Otherwise, they can get blocked into an enemy, and they only steal 3 health. It heals yours 3 health, doesn't deal any damage to the Nexus. This Doom Beast is actually dealing damage to the Nexus when you play it. There is a condition to it, Nightfall, so I think that makes it a little bit weaker. I don't really see this unit being more powerful than Dead Bloom Wanderer, but depending on what kind of Nightfall abilities are released in other units, it could be really synergistic in a deck like that. As it is though, and without really knowing the other cards in this expansion and possible other Nightfall units, this card looks super weak. I would play Dead Bloom Wanderer or Tasty Feyfolk over this card probably 9 times out of 10. Depending on, I guess, the meta and whether or not you actually do need to deal direct damage to the Nexus, that could be I guess, form a different deck and have a place in it. But right now, I don't really see this being used over the Dead Bloom Wanderer. We'll see with the new cards later on if we get more Nightfall abilities, and maybe it will work in that type of deck. But right now, I don't see it. I think this card is weak. Alright, Dusk Rider, 5 cost, so this is a fearsome unit, Nightfall. Grant me +1 for each time we've activated Nightfall this game. Alright, so this seems like the first card this reminds me of, and probably reminds you of, is the Legion General. Legion General is from Noxus. I think he starts out as 3/3, but I could be wrong about that. He gets buffed for each time you have recalled or stunned a unit this game. And he also has Fearsome. This just seems like a weaker version of Legion General, and that card is hardly ever played. It gets some play in Katarina and Yasuo decks, but even then it's not super popular and doesn't usually run as a full set. Dusk Rider seems like a weaker version of that. You're granting it +1 for each time you've activated Nightfall this game. So it's only granting it +1 for each time you've used an ability that there aren't many of. So right now there's 3 cards with Nightfall. Now more than likely they're going to release more tomorrow, and there could be some possible Targon synergy because that's the newest region, but 3 cards with Nightfall. What's the max you're going to get by the time you can play this 5 cost unit? And he's only got Fearsome too, so by the time you play him, he's more than likely going to be able to be blocked as well. He's not got overwhelmed. He's not making that contact with the Nexus right now. Without other information, this card seems super weak as well. Yeah, I don't play Legion General normally, and this just looks like a weaker Legion General. Yeah, plus with these Nightfall abilities, you actually have to activate Nightfall before you play the cards in order to get the Nightfall ability, so you've got to activate it, whereas with the Legion General, if you stun, you just stun, right? There's no requirement in order to stun, there's a requirement in order to get Nightfall activated. So yeah, it just seems like a super weak Legion General. We'll see what happens with the other cards, but as of now, I'm a little bit underwhelmed by all 3 of these cards. They could be combo pieces and played with other types, but yeah, it just seems a little bit weak. I don't really see these cards being any better than cards that are now available. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Alright, this first spell here. So Passage Unearned. It's a 3-cost fast-paced spell, so obliterate all units that were summoned but not played this round. Alright, so summoned units. Summoned units would be like ephemeral units from Shadow Isles. Valor summoned when Quinn comes on. What else is summoned? I believe Petty Officer summons a unit. Island Navigator. So anything that you actually don't play from card form and comes onto the board is summoned. So I guess Powder Kegs as well would be summoned. Anything from spells are summoned. So this could have some niche play. This could counter some decks if certain, I guess, metas are summon heavy units like ephemeral units. The interesting thing about this is that they're creating kind of an ephemeral counter, which isn't very strong right now, in the same region that ephemeral comes from. So yeah, that's interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, you're getting rid of them completely. So all units that were summoned. So these are only board units. So unlike the She Who Wanders, it obliterates hand units as well, or units in hand besides champions. So this is just getting rid of units that are on the board. If they're ephemeral, they are going to be temporary anyway. And then the random chance that you do play this on a round where someone uses a ton of, like, I guess, summoned units to get value out of this. I guess there's a reason why it's only 3 men. I don't know. I don't really see this card being played. There are other ways to counter summoned units, like the box that Thresh has. Like, that is a way to counter it, and I think it's probably more efficient than this. This just seems rather niche and maybe meta dependent. So we will see how that works too. Not super impressed with this card either. Alright, Encroaching Shadows. This is an epic card. Burst speed spell, 4 mana, grant all allies in deck in hand +2/+2 and ephemeral. Now this is an interesting card. Once again, kind of niche. It does not fit in every deck, and I don't think you would expect it to, but I think this card is meant to buff ephemeral units, which is interesting because ephemeral at the moment has been somewhat underpowered and underrepresented as a deck choice, and this could go a long ways into helping it. Now, this is granting all allies in deck and hand, so this includes your champions as well, which you have to be super careful about. In general, you don't grant like permanent, I guess, stat changes. Detrimental. This is kind of a detriment and also a buff at the same time, but where it kills your unit once the round is done, I would consider that kind of a detriment to your champions, especially if you're using them to win games and if they can get chum blocked or in some way like recalled, just interacted with. This seems kind of a dangerous card to use with champions. So just be aware of that, as using it also on champions is granting everything +2/+2 in ephemeral. This could really work well in Undying decks where you don't have champions. I could see this being an Undying super powerhouse here. One thing I have noticed, though, is that in Undying decks, when you buff them, they do not retain the buff once they die the first time. So, for example, the Undying is a 2/2 unit. The first time it dies, it will come back 3/3, then 4/4, so on, so on. Now, if the Undying is buffed and is already 3/3, the first time it dies, it will come back a 3/3 again. And so you don't get a ton of value out of this, I'm guessing. I don't think this is permanent. Once the unit dies, I think it will come back non-ephemeral. So you would get a temporary buff of 4/4 to the Undying, a guaranteed death for it, but I think it comes back 3/3 and non-ephemeral if I were to guess. It is burst speed though, and so this could be super advantageous to use on an attack round, especially if they don't have units to block into everybody. You could get a ton of extra damage with units that you otherwise wouldn't. So this could actually be a potential game-changing or a game-winning card. There are a lot of ways to play this, and it could definitely work in a deck specifically built around ephemeral units, and maybe without champions. I'm not sure. It could work with champions as well. I know that a lot of people like using the Night and Day on Hecarim and using that to finish off games and giving kind of an extra or getting extra ephemeral units and finishing off the game. You're still left with one Hecarim though that doesn't have ephemeral, so there's that to say about it. You do protect your Hecarim when you do that. Alright, overall, I'm kind of confused about these cards a little bit. Hopefully they release more Nightfall units so that we get more synergy with these. As of now, they look super weak. Now, they undoubtedly are going to release more, but just looking at these as well, I'm kind of confused on how they would also synergize together at the moment, because, yeah, Stygian Onlooker kind of looks like an early game aggro card. The Doom Beast kind of seems like a late game control where you're draining from the Nexus and kind of protecting your health. And so, like, did the two actually work together? And then Dusk Rider, I mean, yeah, just a really weak Legion in general. I don't know that this card is ever going to see play, even if they do get a lot of Nightfall units into the game. You'd have to be able to use a ton of Nightfall before you can even play the Dusk Rider, and in order to get Nightfall units, you have to play other cards, so, like, your hand is empty. I just don't see it. I don't really see this card ever getting played. Could be wrong about that. This card right now looks pretty bad. The Doom Beast looks kind of bad as well, a weaker version of Dead Bloom Wanderer, and Stygian Onlooker just kind of looks like a interesting take on aggro from Shadow Isles. So if I were to rate these cards in terms of power from best to worst, I would probably say Encroaching Shadows, Stygian Onlooker, Doom Beast, Passage Unearned, then Dusk Rider. And the reason why Encroaching Shadows at the top is because the amount of playmaking it gives you with ephemeral units and a different way to play ephemeral. So, yeah, that's about it. My early impressions, not super impressed with this ability. Hopefully they release some more. I imagine we'll get more from Targon as well. I kind of thought we would get more from Behold and Targon as well today, but that didn't happen. So we'll see where they take us. I guess the next week before the expansion. Anyway, so there's that for you. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you tomorrow. Thanks.